This is my final project for designing technologies for music education this semester, and my final project is an application called Tetras, which is a way that one can learn the modes of the major scale and the melodic minor scale, and hopefully from here wind it back to do more basic things as well. So there are three basic panes to this application. On the left, there's Discover mode, where a music student that may, know the B flat scale and C scale, or maybe just a few scales, can walk themselves through this Discover area and teach themselves how to make scales and modes using tetrachords by dragging and dropping. The middle pane shows a quiz mode where one can make modes of their own choice, and if it's correct, it plays, and if it's incorrect, then it goes away and becomes unavailable. And on the right is a mega challenge that uses letters instead of numbers, and they can be flipped. So this whole idea came about because I thought, well, tetrachords sound like Tetris, and but falling bricks don't really seem to work as well as these other games, such as the one shown here, where you actually drag the tiles upward. So that's what this does, and it allows the user some time to figure out what they want to do. So in this first mode, this is the learn or discover mode for, in this case, just for major scales. And you can see these are the four these are the four tetrachords that are available to make a major scale. A whole tone tetrachord, major tetrachord, minor tetrachord, and Phrygian tetrachord. And the whole gist of this is that whole steps go upward and half steps go to the right. And that's how these tetrachords get their shape. And hopefully that's how it becomes a visual reminder. So in this case, the user selects one of these tetrachords to pop into the place. The application rubber bands it into place so that the root goes onto the root place. And then they can start making their scale. So here the user picks Phrygian, and once that Phrygian pops into place, now the upper tetrachord is available. Now, not all of those four tetrachords are available in the upper position because only the whole tone and another Phrygian tetrachord would actually make a mode of the major scale. So with one of these two choices, whole tone is chosen. And you can see at that point it displays the answer that Locrian is the mode. It's the seventh mode of the major scale. It goes from B to B, keeping C as our parent scale. It highlights the flat twos, the flat threes, and the half steps and the whole steps. And then at the bottom, it shows the associated chord symbols that one could use this scale either as a melody or an improvisation on. So that's that user journey. Now, to use the quiz or game mode, one would have, it would look like that game where you have now three grids and three tetrachords that you begin to populate. So using both lower and upper tetrachords expressed in numbers, the user will place these onto the grid. So if it's a lower tetrachord, it'll snap into the lower area or the upper area. So it could go into either any of these three, as long as the lowers go to the lowers and the upper go to the upper. And then when you finish that scale, it makes a sound just like the learning mode did. So, and that's right there. And then when two tetrachords do not make a mode, that becomes unavailable and the game is over, again, modeled off of that game that I displayed. So here are the, oops, this slide's a little funky, but let's go over here. So let's go right here. So if we look here, there are 10 pieces here. There's the whole, 1 and 2 are the whole tones, 3 and 4 the major, 5 and 6 are the minor, 7 and 8 are Phrygian, and 9 or 10 are diminished. So in beta testing this with other classmates, what I did was I started off using upper and lower major tetrachords only just to make major scales. And it really didn't really work very well. So I went back to just using numbers and actually using all the modes, and it actually works pretty well. So using these 10 pieces, you roll the dice either literally here as a prototype or with a computer application, and then that's how you populate the 3 pieces at the bottom. So, or 7 is rolled, so that lower Phrygian is selected. A 10 is selected, so that upper diminished is selected. And then a 3 is selected, so the lower major tetrachord is selected. So now with these 3 in place, the user can now put that lower Phrygian up there, and notice it didn't have to be in line. And then the next piece is going to be the upper diminished tetrachord that goes up over there. And then finally, the last piece into place is the lower major tetrachord. By the way, none of these actually complete a scale, so that's why they were not there. So now the 3, 7, and 10 are not in play. So when a game piece that is drawn but is in use, I thought that by adding 2, it'll move it away from being that same tetrachord, but in the other form by guarantee. So in this case, a 10 is drawn, so it goes up 2 to become number 2, and that's why that lower whole tone, upper whole tone is selected here. So now 3 is drawn again, so 3 is drawn, so now we go +2, and that becomes number 5 in this case. And then 3 is drawn a second time. So in this case, just so that you're not going +2 all the time, so you can cycle around to the other pieces. If the +2 is also on the board, then you go up 1. All right, and that's how this is drawn. So now from here, you can draw the upper whole tone and put that into place right here, and then that makes the Locrian just like we did in the learn mode. So the app would sound just like that. And then they notice that those pieces come back into play for the next draw. Now the next piece is being dragged up into place, and then that completes a Mixolydian mode. It would again play the Mixolydian scale and steps like in learn mode, and you would see that. So now those pieces come back. And now here we have this piece that does not work with the piece that's up there, but it will be drawn up here. And because he put that in the wrong place, those pieces and that board will no longer become available. And when there are no other moves available to do, then the game is over. So on Mega Challenge, I don't have a user journey for that, but on this would be to the final level of this, where you could use letter names, and these cycle buttons are actually where you can invert it. So the E flat minor tetrachord could become an A flat tetrachord, minor tetrachord, or that C whole tone tetrachord would flip to become an F sharp whole tone tetrachord, and you can mix and match them to build scales like that. So thank you for watching, and I appreciate your time.